Welcome to Money Muscle Mindset, the podcast designed to motivate and educate you on your journey to financial and fitness success and to develop the mentality needed to achieve your goals. I'm Zay Molina, and in this episode, we're going to talk about why purpose stays but pressure fades, right? And more specifically, we're simply going to break down what the difference is between purpose and pressure. And I know this may sound very self-explanatory, right? One of them sounds very positive, the other one sounds very negative, right? But we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the actual science behind why having a purpose is so beneficial for our long-term growth versus just relying on pressure to meet deadlines, to have all this external motivation to keep us going. So without further ado, let's dive in. So let's first talk about pressure, right? What is pressure exactly, right? Well, when I refer to the word pressure, right, I'm talking about that external motivation. I'm talking about deadlines that we got to meet. I'm talking about comparison to other people around the world. I'm talking about all the little things that we do because we feel that we need to accomplish more, or we're going to be deemed as a failure. We're going to be seen as unaccomplished, right? We have all these people looking at us and expecting so much, and that if we don't meet these certain standards, right, we are going to be seen as a failure. But when we start to feel this pressure on us, and I'm sure we all have from parents, from coaches, from coworkers, right, whatever it may be, right, when we start to feel that pressure, right, it creates stress, it creates anxiety, right, it creates the short-term compliance. When we start thinking about what we're doing, it's not because we love it and we want to do it. It's simply because, hey, we have to get this done because of this deadline, or we have to get this done because this person's expecting it. And whatever you may be doing, whether it's training in the gym or working on your side hustle, whatever it may be, right, you start to lose the joy in it, right? And you start to get it done just because it needs to get done. And again, all this chronic pressure can cause stress and anxiety, right? It can impair your working memory, right? It can reduce your quality of work, right? All these things start affecting our life to where the work that we're doing is, again, not something that we want to do, right? It's not something that brings us joy. It's not something that's making us happy, right? What we're doing is we're simply just trying to get it done because of all the expectations, right? All of that pressure that's on us right now. If you ever played sports in high school, right, I can almost guarantee you experience this pressure one way or another, right? I can speak from personal experience, right? It may have been from coaches, from teammates, from fans, from parents, right? Where let's say you're playing basketball, for example, and you get fouled, you go to the free throw line. When you have all of the crowd just watching you and the fans from the other team yelling, hoping you miss, right? And you look at your coaches, you look at your parents in the stands, right? You look at all these people counting on you to make this free throw, right? It's very nerve-wracking, right? And it causes the pressure. And even though you love the sport you're playing, right? You've shot this free throw how many times and you've made it how many times, right? When you get to that free throw line and you're about to shoot this free throw, it's very nerve-wracking, right? You feel all of that pressure, right? And you start to think, what if I miss? What if I airball, right? And all of these things start to flood your brain, right? All because you just feel external pressure. And again, even though you've shot this free throw how many times in practice, you've made it how many times in practice, right? This is the most nerve-wracking shot ever, right? It happens almost every time. Again, you start to overthink your shot. You start thinking about different forms. You start to think about how the ball feels in your hands. All these things that you normally wouldn't feel like if there was no pressure at all. If you were in an empty gym, you probably wouldn't feel all this pressure, right? And that's kind of the idea that coaches tell players to focus on, right? But the idea, again, is that this pressure overwhelms us. And in that moment, instead of loving the sport and playing out of joy, you start to worry about, I need to make this because I don't want to let everybody down. And that right there is how you know you're feeling the pressure. Again, this may come in basketball. This may come in football when you're kicking a field goal. This may come in soccer when you're kicking a penalty kick, right? Whatever it may be, right? You start to feel this external pressure. And what it's doing is, again, it's taking away the happiness, the joy, the love that you have for that game. When in reality, you should be up there excited to shoot this free throw. You get to add points to the board. You get a chance to put your team in the lead, whatever it may be, right? You have that ability to play the sport that you love and contribute to the game. And if you miss, so what? There's so many other opportunities in the game. So again, guys, we shouldn't be relying on that pressure to try to do good. So again, guys, the point of that was to say, again, that pressure can cause all this anxiety and stress. And what it actually does is it tells our brain to activate the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal system. And basically what this is our body's primary system dealing with stress, right? It releases cortisol and adrenaline and activates our sympathetic nervous system, right? This all helps us deal with stress in the moment. And basically this is what tells our body, hey, there's a new challenge that we need to adapt to. So let's release all these different hormones to help us adapt to this stress. Now in the moment, this can be good for the short term, right? Think about it. When you have something stressful going on and you feel like you need to get it done, your adrenaline spikes up and you start to work hard. For example, let's say you need to get a presentation done for work, right? And you haven't worked on it all week, but it's due tomorrow. Guess what? Now you remember, hey, this is due tomorrow. Your adrenaline spikes, your cortisol spikes, you start stressing out, and you're able to get that presentation done. In the night, you stay up late, get it all done, and then in the morning, you have it ready to present. So yes, in this case, right, that pressure helped you get something done, right? But it was a short-term resolution. Even though you got that presentation done in time and the next day you go to work and it's ready to go and it's good enough, right? At the end of the day, it probably wasn't your best work. And my point being with all of this is that, again, the pressure is good for the short term, right? But it's not something that we want to rely on all the time. This is not sustainable for long-term growth. And that's where purpose comes in. Purpose creates sustainable drive, right? It aligns with our identity, right? When we have a purpose in life, right, we feel more fulfilled. This is what helps us stay disciplined. This is what helps us stay committed, right? Even when we're under stress, even when we feel like, hey, we got to get this done, right? We still do it more out of this is what I want to do. This is what I love to do versus feeling like we need to get this done because of other people's expectations. So purpose is out of a place of love and enthusiasm and commitment, while pressure is out of fear. When we feel like we're going to be a failure because we didn't get this done, or people are going to look at us a different way because we didn't do this or we didn't do that, right? That is all because of the external pressure, right? That's that external motivation that we are operating out of fear of something else. But when it comes to purpose, right? Again, this is internal motivation, right? This is us dedicated to doing something because we want to do it. It brings us joy, it brings us happiness, right? This is something that we know is going to lead to long-term growth and long-term fulfillment. And that's not to say when you operate out of purpose, right, you don't have stress, right? Purpose doesn't remove stress, right? What it basically does is reinterprets it. Let's say you're working on your side hustle, right? Something you're trying to build from the ground up, right? It's something you absolutely love, whatever this may be, right? An online store, right? A clothing brand, right? A online personal training business, whatever it may be, right? When you are trying to put this together and you're building something, right, you're still going to have stress, right? You're still going to have deadlines. You're still going to have all these different things, but they're coming from yourself. They shouldn't be coming from others putting the pressure on you saying, oh, you need to get this done because of XYZ. You need to have this, you need to do that, right? All this kind of stuff, right? We operate out of this is something I want to do and I'm doing it because I love to do it. So even though I still feel stressed out and I need to get this done and I need to get that done, right? I'm still operating out of a place of love and enthusiasm. I'm dedicated to getting these things done. I'm committed, right? Because this is something that I actually want. This aligns with who I want to become and my future endeavors. That presentation at work, I had to get done just because I had to get it done. That's what my boss asked for, right? But this side hustle, right? This is what I'm building because this is what I want for myself and my future self. This aligns with my long-term goals. So by having that purpose in your life, right, it sharpens your performance. It helps with developing your identity, right, and who you want to become. When your actions that you're doing today feel like they're helping your long-term goals, right, you feel more accomplished, right? You feel more fulfilled because now you're doing something that you know is going to help you get in the right direction. Let's take your fitness journey, for example, right? There's a lot of people at the gym right now that are operating out of, I need to lose a bunch of weight right now because I have a vacation coming up in a couple weeks or in a couple months. And they're so focused on, I need to get this done because I need to look good or other people are going to laugh at me. If I don't have my summer body ready, right, all these people are going to look at me and think I'm gross and think I'm ugly and all this kind of stuff, right? And that right there is acting out of pressure. You feel the external pressure to feel like you need to satisfy other people. If you're not in this perfect shape by that next vacation, right, you think all these other eyes and all these other people are going to laugh at you and fat shame you and whatever it may be, right? But in reality, guys, most people are not even looking at you, right? They're worried about themselves in probably the exact same manner. So instead of looking at your fitness journey in the short-term mindset of I need to be in shape by the next vacation, right? Look at the long-term growth that you're having on your body. Look at the long-term health benefits that you get from going to the gym. Instead of just trying to get in shape before that next vacation, try to get in shape because this is what's going to help you play with your grandkids. This is what's going to help extend your life. This is what's going to help you create long-term health benefits. That's what we all should be focused on when we go to the gym, right? When we're working out, when we're eating healthy. So when you go to the gym, don't say I'm trying to train for this next vacation, right? I'm training right now for the longevity. I want to get in the best shape of my life now. So when I'm at an old age, I'm not stuck in a wheelchair, right? I can't go out and do things with my family. I can't go out and do a bunch of normal things like other people, right? Because I'm stuck in a hospital bed, right? Whatever it may be, right? But that's the reason why we should be at the gym. That's the reason why we should be working out and exercising and eating healthy, right? Because we're looking at the long term versus the short term. That's the purpose that we all should have in our lives, right? That's the why we do things every day, why we work on this side hustle, right? Why we go to the gym, why we eat healthy, right? Why we work on our mindset and our reading and all this kind of stuff, right? Because we are focused on the longevity. We want the long-term growth. And when you focus on that long-term growth and you operate out of having a purpose, right? There's actually studies that prove that you're going to be happier. You're going to be more fulfilled. Working on and accomplishing long-term goals versus just the short-term goals, right, lead to more satisfaction. When you focus on that long-term goal, that's what's going to lead to real happiness, real joy, real fulfillment. Because remember, short-term goals cause short-term satisfaction. Long-term goals cause long-term happiness, long-term growth, right? And that's what's going to actually help us feel more accomplished, more fulfilled. So again, guys, don't operate out of pressure, right? Don't worry about impressing others or fear of failure or anything like that, right? Find something that you love to do that's going to help you achieve the success that you want in this life, right? That's going to do the greater good for others, right? And that's what's going to help you, again, feel more accomplished. So how can we shift from a pressure mindset to a purpose mindset, right? Well, there's a few tips I want to share with you guys. Number one is ask, what am I afraid of, right? Because pressure almost always has a fear attached to it. If you feel like, oh my gosh, I need to get this done today because my boss needs it, right? Well, that means there's a deadline attached to it and you're afraid of not meeting the deadline. If you say, I need to be in this physical shape by this date on my fitness journey, it's probably because you're comparing yourself to people on Instagram and Facebook and all this kind of stuff. So your fear is that you think people are going to look down at you and laugh at you because you're afraid of other people's expectations. So that's the first thing, is identifying what you're actually afraid of and why you feel this pressure. And so once you identify that fear, right, you can actually reason with yourself and say, okay, is this actually a legit reason of why I need to be afraid? Because most of the times it's probably not. When it comes to your finances or your fitness journey, right, you don't need to compare yourself with others, right? You don't need to have other people's expectations. You need to go in and try to become the best you for you. So focus on your journey. Don't worry about what other people say, right? Focus on you just growing and being better than you were yesterday. The next tip I have for you guys to go from pressure to purpose, right, is extend your time horizon, right? Ask the question, who am I becoming through this effort? Because that actually shifts your brain from threat mode to growth mode. Instead of saying, I have to get this done because of XYZ, right? Say, who am I actually becoming if I get this done? When I accomplish this and I work on this, right? What is it actually going to do for my long-term growth? And that helps you determine your identity and your purpose, because now it's not something you have to do. It's something that you want to do, right? It's something that you know that if I get this done, this is going to help me with my long-term growth in this way, whatever that may be. If I go to the gym today and every day this week and I stay consistent, right? It's going to help me with my long-term goal of staying healthy, right? Gaining muscle, losing body fat. If I work on this side hustle today, I may not make $1 million today, but it's going to help me with my goal of becoming wealthy, right? Gaining financial freedom. And so now, instead of being stressed out and worried about, oh, I need to get this done because of all these expectations and all these other things, right? I'm worried about, I want to get this done because it's going to help me with my long-term growth. And the last tip I want to give you guys is separate your results from your identity. Instead of saying, if I fail at this, I'm a failure, say, if I fail at this, this is just one loss in my long-term journey. This is a part of my growth process. This small loss is not failure, right? It's just a small setback. That's all it is. I know the path to success is not just a straight line up, right? There's always going to be ups and downs along the way. So when I have a setback or have a loss, right, I know that this is just part of the growth process. This is something that I will overcome. I did not fail, right? The only time I fail is when I give up. I am not giving up, right? This is something that just set me back a little bit, but now I'm going to power through. I'm going to push through because my purpose is going to allow me to go for that long-term growth. I don't have to get this done. I want to get this done because this is what's going to help me achieve my long-term goals. And that's how we can shift from pressure to purpose. So again, guys, pressure is that short-term external motivation that doesn't last very long, right? That'll fade. And we don't want to rely on that for long-term success. But our purpose is what helps us with our identity. This is something that we want to get done. This is what's going to help us lead to long-term satisfaction and long-term growth. So when we find our purpose and we operate out of that, guys, that's what's going to help us achieve long-term success versus acting with pressure in mind. So with that being said, that's what I got for you guys on today's episode. I hope you guys got a lot of value from this episode. And with that, I'm going to leave you guys as I always do. Remember, success isn't just about the money you make or the muscles you build. It's also about the mindset you develop along the way. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of Money Muscle Mindset.